Cipla Medpro is the third largest pharmaceutical company in South Africa with a market cap of 2.8 billion rand. Cipla provides medicines locally, which are mostly manufactured by Cipla India. It reversed into the Enaleni pharmaceutical shell in 2008 and is currently involved in a messy legal fight with its suspended CEO. It has a price to earnings ratio of 13 and a dividend yield of 2.5%. This is the deal that Adcock Ingram wishes they had got off the ground.
Yeah, so the background is, as you said there, in Enaleni, and then it looked as though Cipla India were open to a conversation with Adcock about, basically selling that supply relationship. Look, the Indians are fabulous at generic pharma. Why? Because they've got very dodgy intellectual property protection. So they reverse engineer everybody's drugs, and they've got a massive consumer market of 1.1 billion Indians or something. So they're very good, and they've got enormous production scale, so they can, register stuff and pass it on down here. So Cipla Medpro, Jerome Smith, the CEO, were very effective in getting the Medicines Control Council to approve stuff. Unfortunately now, there is an almighty fight going on because the board is of the view that Smith behaved in some way that was improper, and as a result the transaction, which everybody thinks, I think, was that Cipla India were going to buy out Cipla South Africa, is sort of off the cards, or isn't it? Or is it?
Well, is it? Is it not? What?
What's going on?
I mean, for one, I don't know. Nothing's been disclosed that you can really put a firm definition of what was going on.
And the market doesn't like uncertainty.
No, not at all. And I mean, it's come off by 20% since the whole drama kicked off. I'm personally not entirely sure it was Cipla India trying to buy them out because it's not really consistent with Cipla India's strategy. Their model is distribution-based, where they outsource the distribution to people like Cipla or Cipla Medpro. Whether it was another multinat, I don't know. Unlikely it was local because it can't be Adcock really because of the previous issue. Aspen would be a problem for competition. So it really means it's probably another multinat. But then you've got the same issues that you had with Adcock, whether the supply agreement is exclusive, although Cipla Medpro firmly says that it is. It's safe.
So we're not sure who to believe. Let's look at how the share is reacting. That's the big fall you're talking about,
yes.
Are you, Matthew?
Yep.
Unfortunately, that's where it goes off the boil and has fallen back into the sort of mid-sixes. So
but it could be an opportunity.
Yeah, well, look, the fight has basically been taken to the courts, and it's going to be heard in an arbitration type situation. Meanwhile, somebody has approached the transfer or the takeover regulation panel, the old SRP, saying, look, a deal was on the table and then it got withdrawn. So it sounds as though the board stepped in and decided the transaction was inappropriate, but Jerome Smith wanted to continue with it. That's what I'm reading between the lines. The only other fragment here is that Aspen actually distributes Cipla's drugs in Australia via that Sigma transaction. So, I just don't know. But for me anyway, the issue has always been that Cipla, as good as it is only really just a post box. They are a distributor of someone else's IP.
I've got a thought. What about now Adcock Ingram decides to go back in, guns blazing, hostile takeover?
It would be great for Adcock because Adcock needs a pipeline and Cipla's got the pipeline.
But with Jerome Smith out of the picture, isn't there more possibility that it could actually happen?
It's conceivable, but I think it was a bit of a disaster. So to try and go and rehash that, I think was unlikely, but certainly very positive for Adcock should that take place.
Yeah, so I mean,
take further.
Look, it's got good brands, and they've done a lot of work locally. They've got that advert with Tox van der Linde singing about his hair loss, and then they sponsor all those things on SuperSport, like Bobby van Jaarsveld wearing his gas mask because of his, asthma and so on and so forth. So
they've got big advertising budgets.
Yeah, they've succeeded well, and they've done a lot of brand building around the Cipla brand and so on and so forth. So. It would be a pity. The trouble, of course, with all this noise going on, what is the appropriate price to pay? Because one's got to assume that there's going to be some management lack of focus in terms of driving new registrations and doing sales. So, I mean, we've not been involved in it. We are not involved in it now, and I wouldn't recommend people getting stuck into it now either.
Hot or not on Cipla Medpro, Matthew?
I think if you look through the noise and you look at the earnings and the last set of results and where the margin was and the factory that's coming together and the OTC department that's getting itself together as well and is doing pretty well. They're doing well in the animal business. They got another big respiratory tender. They've got a lot going for them from a company perspective and income statement perspective that is pretty positive, independent of what's going on with management. At sort of 8 times forward at the moment, it's dirt cheap. So for me, it's pretty hot.
And they should be hiring you as their public relations executive.
For me, it's
this long of all the positives.
It's pretty hot, but with the big caveat that you don't know what's going on with management and you're going to see some volatility.
All right, but we're going with the hot on that front.
Yeah, interesting thesis, but I'm going to go with avoid for the moment, so not hot.